this video, I'm going to cover how you can write an argumentative essay. Now, argumentative essays are probably the most popular essays to write because you argue whether you're against or in favor of a particular statement. Now, they're not particularly difficult, but there are a few things to look at when you're writing your argumentative essay. Argumentative essays differ from other essays like discussion essays or literary essays or even review-like essays because they really focus on the argument. And that's important because your arguments are also going to be your topic sentences in your body paragraphs. Now, regardless of the type of essay that you write, you want to stick to a few conventions that are the same for most essays. You want to write formally, you want it to be very structured, you want to have a thesis statement, which is kind of the main idea of your essay, and you want to make sure that your introduction follows the funnel shape, more on that later, and that your conclusion follows the upside down funnel shape, which is also discussed later. Now, first of all, it's important to know the structure of an argumentative essay, and like all the other essays that we have, argumentative essays also have an introduction, they have body paragraphs, and they have a conclusion. Now, in the introduction, you want to follow the funnel shape, where you start broadly by introducing your topic, and then you work towards a thesis statement. And usually, the thesis statement covers whether you're against or in favor of the statement or topic that you're discussing. Then you get your paragraphs, of which I will say a few things in a second, and then you end with your conclusion. And in your conclusion, as always, you summarize the main points of your essay, and you also try to end broadly, so you follow the upside down funnel shape. Now, your body paragraphs need to be structured, and you want to use a structure here, and whether you call it PEEL or TXXXC, the idea is the same. You want to start with your topic sentence, you get an explanation of your topic sentence, you have an example or evidence, and in the case of an argumentative essay, it's usually evidence, and then you get some explanations about that evidence because you want to link your evidence or example to your topic sentence, and then you end with a concluding sentence. So you want to round off the paragraph. Of course, in your body paragraphs, you want to include linking words or linkers or other things that you could use to indicate how things are related. Linking words, linkers, or linking phrases are very useful ways to do this, but you can experiment with different sentence structures as well and see whether you achieve the same result. Now, if you want to know more about paragraph structure or you want to see a few examples, have a look at my paragraph structure video, which is linked below. Now, sometimes your argumentative essay needs a counter-argument, and it depends on the assignment or the topic that you were given. Now, if your argumentative essay requires a counter-argument, you usually put this counter-argument in your final body paragraph. Sometimes you can even refute this argument, and you can use linking words, of course, like however, to introduce that you're going to refute that particular argument. Now, not every argumentative essay needs this, and it also depends on your topic. So check your assignment properly before you add a counter-argument to your argumentative essay. Now, after you've looked at your structure, which is introduction, body paragraphs, and conclusion, you want to make sure that you start planning. It's important that you fully understand the topic or the thesis that you need to defend or refute yourself. So that means that it's important to think about the thesis that you were given, think about whether you agree or disagree, and think about whether you can find good evidence either in favor or against that thesis. You want to make sure that you plan your work before you start writing, and the best way to plan your work before you start writing is by using a word web. Now, I always encourage my students to use a word web because it visualizes both the structure of your essay and the content that you want to include, and it gives you an option to filter out arguments that are not very strong or arguments that are strong but need to be stronger. Using a word web also means that you can visualize the relationship between different arguments. You don't want to have arguments that are the same, and maybe you want to dive deeper in particular arguments, and then you can do that using extra branches on your word web. But whatever you do, make sure that you plan your writing before you start writing your argumentative essay. After planning, you want to create an outline, and the outline is very important when it comes to writing essays. Of all the things that we can write, essays and research papers are usually the ones most structured. And you need a good outline to have a good structured essay. An outline helps structuring your arguments, but also helps structuring your paragraphs, which is definitely something that you want to do when you're writing an argumentative essay. And then, of course, you want to write. It's important to think about the people that are going to read your essay. Do you need to write formally? Are you allowed to include rhetoric questions or maybe a joke here and there? Or is it something very serious? And do you need to write using formal English? Now, these are things to think about before you start writing, because you want to know the tone, you want to know the audience, and you want to know which conventions you need to use when you're writing your argumentative essay. Now, this is something I see second language learners struggle with the most. How are you going to make sure that you write formally And again, if you want to know more about formal writing, have a look at the video that I've linked below in the description. Now here's a final tip that I want to give you before you start writing your essay. Now if the essay that you're writing requires evidence, so something from a source that proves or doesn't prove whatever you're discussing, you want to include this research and do your research before you start writing your essay. And usually I'd recommend doing the research while you're still in your word web phase, because then you can see what you're going to write where, you understand what you've already done, and it saves you a lot of time when you're going to write. You want to make sure that when you sit down to write your essay, you can actually write your essay and you don't need to think of the content. Of course you want to think of the structure of the content, but you want to do your research not while you're writing, you want to do it while you're planning. So make sure that when you write your essay, you've done all the planning beforehand. And finally, here's something to know about your introduction. You write your introduction last. Now this might seem weird, why would you write your introduction last? But this has everything to do with the funnel shape. Remember I said that you want to start broadly and end specific with your thesis statement? Well, you want to make sure that you funnel towards what's in your essay. And if you need to tweak or change your thesis statement, or your essay takes a completely different direction, you want to make sure that your introduction does this as well. So you want to make sure that what you discuss in your introduction, the way you introduce your essay and the way you introduce your topic, corresponds to what you do in your essay. If you write your introduction first and then you write your essay, you might have stuff in your introduction that's not part of your essay, or you might have stuff in your essay that doesn't correspond with what you set out to do in your introduction. So that's why I always recommend write your introduction at the end. When you've done everything, you have your body paragraphs and your conclusion, then you write your introduction. So that's basically it. That's how you write an argumentative essay. If you found this video useful, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you want to know when my other videos come out, don't forget to subscribe. I'll link a live workshop I did in the description so that you can see how I write argumentative essays. But for now, thank you for watching and I hope to see you in one of my next videos.